now that we're done making fun of RFK Jr., and there's a lot to make fun of, I know, we need to talk about... Well, we don't really need to talk about this. It's not actually that big of a deal. I just want to show you one idiot on the internet being a demonstrable idiot on the internet. That's it. Like, that's all I want to show you. So, this is a guy who goes by the name of Yorch Torch Games. Now, Yorch Torch Games says that he's a game design strategist, and he calls himself the voice Western studios are watching nervously. I'm going to be honest, whenever somebody shows me that they have main character syndrome that fucking bad, I don't know whether I should pity them or make fun of them. So is that AI or GTA 6 concept art? It could easily just be an AI-generated image based on GTA 6 concept art. When he says, I'll show you the most profitable audience in gaming that nobody is building for. So, when he's saying the most profitable audience in gaming that nobody's building for, I'm probably gonna go ahead and say it's, you know, just single white men. And, like, I'm sorry, but historically, that's been one of the most served demographics in gaming as an industry ever. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's what he's trying to say, but based on the stuff that I have seen this guy post, I think that is the case. That said, real quick, main character syndrome, Draculator asked what it is. So main character syndrome is a cultural term. It's the tendency to basically view your life as if you are the protagonist and everybody else is some type of supporting extra. It is showcased by narcissism and a just bunch of narcissism and overconfidence and usually attention seeking. Those are usually your things when it comes to main character syndrome. Now, we don't have a diagnosis for it so much as we just recognize this is a thing that people see. Forrest Wren says, ignoring the fact that women make up about 50% of the market. Yeah. Pernia says, so most YouTubers. Look, I have been very honest with the fact that I am, in fact, a narcissist. I have a YouTube channel because I believe the things that I am saying should be heard by somebody. And that 100% comes with a certain amount of main character syndrome. Like, that is all YouTubers. Every fucking one of us. Said, is this guy a game dev? What game did he make? I don't think he's made any games. So, Yorch Torch Games? Yorch Torch Games? Did he actually make any video games? Here we got tutorials, a lighting fest, game dev environment, C++ STL setup guide, game dev first, drawing your first square, make things move, your first game loop with C++, archive. No, it doesn't look like he's actually a game developer. It looks like he's a guy that talks about games a lot, and that's it. Speaking of game devs, Yorch Games came out with an absolute banger 4 days ago. Oh? Is bro pulling a Grums, a game dev that makes no games? Possibly, but the tweet of his that came across my feed was this one.
Apogee Entertainment is now supporting Pride Month as a logo. Terribly, terribly disappointing, especially considering that much of Apogee's fan base consists of fathers. Did you know that gay people can be fathers? Because I knew gay people could be fathers. I knew that's a basic-ass thing anybody can figure out via adoption or in vitro or many other methods. That doesn't matter. There can be gay fathers. There can be fathers of gay children. So I'm sorry, my guy, but this statement is stupid. The home of Commander Keen. Nobody fucking remembers Commander Keen. I promise you. Not one person on the goddamn planet under the age of 25 knows what that is, unless they are some kind of, like, severe retro enthusiast. Duke Nukem and Raptor has now officially been hijacked by the woke mob. Said, I do, damn it. Wait, I do. Feels old, man. If you know Commander Keen, it is likely that you are old. That is what that statement means. If you are under the age of 25 and you know Commander King, then you are some kind of retro enthusiast. If you are over the age of 30 and you know Commander King, it just means that you knew what a fucking PC was years ago. Is that Duke Nukem is for women? He's just a porno character for us girls to drool over? Toothpick Vic says, if you know Commander King, join me in taking your daily Advil. If you know Commander King, Commander Keen, let us take ibuprofen together. That's what that means. Anyways. So, Apogee Entertainment
showcasing a pride flag logo. Now, obviously, rainbow capitalism is a thing. Let me go ahead and just quickly go over what rainbow capitalism is for anybody who might not know. Rainbow capitalism is the tendency for companies to take on the masks of socially progressive issues because it is seen as popular and will earn them points so that it can make sales. A criticism of rainbow capitalism from the left has often been that it is merely performative. It is. And a criticism of rainbow capitalism from the right is that it is virtue signaling. It is. But I'm going to give you a third option. Rainbow capitalism is a sign, and it is a good sign. When rainbow capitalism happens, it doesn't mean that a bunch of places, a bunch of corporations are suddenly the friends of the gays. It means that there is enough representation between people who are LGBTQ and people who are allies that we are in a position where it is seen as trendy to support them. That is a good position to be in. I said rainbow canary? Right, it's a canary in the coal mine. The reason it's a canary in the coal mine, if you go to a different country and you see the Twitter account of a company in another country, and you see that Twitter account is not sporting a rainbow thing when it is doing it in, say, America or the UK, there's your canary in the coal mine about what LGBTQ issues look like in that country. Just saying. It's a very, very easy one to look at. And when companies stop engaging in rainbow capitalism here in the States, there's your canary in the coal mine about how things have changed here. Anyways, said, oh shit, the coal mine? Rainbow capitalism is proof the kids yearn for the mines. Taryn says rainbow capitalism means that it's more profitable for them to treat LGBTQ people like people. Exactly. It is simply an acknowledgement, nothing more. Criticizing people for doing it is stupid in any way, shape, or form. Oh, yep, nope, here you go. Dorito just gave me the exact example needed here. Bethesda, France. Bethesda, Brazil. Bethesda, that one's interesting to me. Bethesda, this one is Bethesda in American. But then we go to Bethesda in the Middle East, Bethesda in Russia. And of course, in all of those, it doesn't participate in rainbow capitalism because that would be a problem there. That could lead to some deaths there. That, hey, us trans people don't want to be people. We want to be treated as cats and puppies. Wingcaster, just shut up and put the collar on. Anyway, anywho, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual guy who is the head of development for Apogee software responding to this. Hey, as a gay man who heads up development here at Apogee, I love that we take this month to celebrate the broad spectrum of differences that make our games what they are. Our queer employees and contractors bring invaluable perspective to our titles, enjoyed by all walks of life. My own father isn't with us anymore, but if he knew, I knew he'd be incredibly proud of me and what we're doing as a studio. I rest easy knowing that plenty of fathers stand in our corner. But hey, hang in there. June will be over in no time. Now, to me, this is a slam dunk. It is killing with kindness. It is acknowledging that it is a thing the company is doing, and it is acknowledging that it doesn't fucking matter. Said, what's up with that last line? Hang in there, buddy. June will be over in no time. You don't have to deal with the gays that much. I understand you're a little snowflake little guy. I understand that it hurts you so much, but don't worry, the pain will be over soon. The gay month will be gone like a band-aid being ripped off your arm. That's okay, little guy. That's basically what he's doing. It is a polite way of making fun of him. It is a polite way to make fun of a homophobe. And of course, this leads to back and forth. Your emotional blackmail doesn't sit well with millions of fathers who grew up with the Apogee brand. First of all, can I just say, it's so cool that you acknowledge that millions of old people grew up with the Apogee brand. As somebody who grew up playing Duke Nukem, take your Advil. Secondly, as somebody who grew up playing Duke Nukem, I also think that it's probably not a good idea to aim every single game that is developed specifically for me or my generation. Would you like to know why? We're dying. We're getting older. And we're dying. You see, there's this cool thing called the newspaper phenomenon. When you have an industry that is exclusively consumed by a dying demographic of people, it's not a good idea to try to push anything super hard into that industry specifically because your customers are dying. Like, I'm sorry, but To sit here and think that like Duke Nukem or Commander Keen or any of these are relevant in the gaming landscape today is insane. They're not. These are not names that people discuss in the modern gaming landscape at all. In fact, outside of a handful of AAAs, the modern gaming landscape is mostly just indie devs now and a bunch of people making fun of monetization in AAA gaming. Even Call of Duty doesn't have the numbers that it did when I was a kid. Like, it's insane. Sean says, remember, Duke Nukem Forever literally took forever to come out? And I think that the N64 version of Duke Nukem Forever that we saw in that initial trailer would have been way better than what we got. But anywho, we all know what the broad spectrum of differences truly means. Ideology over gameplay. Virtue signaling over fun. Don't cry when the layoff hits you after your celebration. So, okay, this is like super edgy dumb shit, right? There's nothing to describe what's happening here other than a loser showcasing how much of a loser they are. However, I also want to show you something else, because the most hilarious part of this, for me, is when said loser doesn't understand how numbers work. So, I'm going to ask you guys a question real quick. How do you tell when an MMO is healthy? Well, concurrent player numbers are usually a good way to do so. How do you tell when an online shooter is healthy? Well, concurrent player numbers are a good way to do so. So how do you tell when a single player game is healthy? You don't. It doesn't matter. A single player game has exactly one metric that matters. Two, if you're being a little more critical. One is reviews. The way that people are generally talking about that thing in the social zeitgeist. This can be IGN and GameSpot reviews, or this can be reviews from YouTubers as they are talking about their thing. But the other way is sales. And unlike an MMO or a shooter that has an active player base, when we're talking about single player games, the concurrent players don't matter on that game at all. Because when a game has a campaign that is actively being beaten, once it's beaten, you're not going to have concurrent players anymore. Like, is Mario 64 not a game that changed the landscape of gaming simply because there's probably only about 3,000 people at this exact minute playing the game? No. That doesn't change anything about how much it changed the gaming landscape for years. That doesn't mean anything. Is the fact that there's probably only 2,000 some odd people playing Final Fantasy VI at this exact moment mean anything for how culturally relevant that game is? No. Because it's a single-player game. Doesn't matter. The amount of people playing it don't matter at all. But, according to the guy who has studied organizational behavior for years, who has a website called The Forge where he talks about all of the different gaming things that he is such a super expert on, who even has an article about how 007 First Light had 1.5 million copies sold, for some reason, pointing out that there are 11 to 20 concurrent players on a handful of games from Apogee Entertainment, games that do not actively have player bases because that is not what they are supposed to be doing. He thinks this is somehow an own, that a handful of single-player games do not have concurrent players right now. Ah, yes. If there are only 12 concurrent players on Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time at this exact moment, that must mean that none of the historical significance of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time exists anymore. Except that would be a really fucking stupid thing to try to say. Turns out, single-player games almost always have metrics that are high in the beginning and low later. Now, I say that specifically because he doesn't understand this at all. And I know he doesn't understand it because he wrote his little article here about 007 First Light, and here's his post about 007 First Light. The fact that, oh no, there's a drop-off, and it's free falling. A 62% drop in players from its peak just 2 days ago. 007, live and let DEI. All right, so let's go ahead and explain that we don't have the slurs or the crayons to properly articulate our point. But we will make do with what we have. Did you know that a single-player game with a 6 to 10-hour campaign will be completed by people? And once that game has been completed by people, they will eventually stop playing the game? Because the metric for whether or not a game is good should never and has never been how many people are spending thousands of hours on the damn thing? Ah, yes, the fact that Stanley Parable doesn't have that many concurrent players means that that was not a game that elicited conversation for the next 5 fucking years after it came out and changed the way that people even viewed the term walking simulator. Don't worry, though, not a lot of concurrent players, because it's a single-player game that can be completed in like a fucking hour. Duh, it's not going to have a lot of concurrent players. Same with the 007 game. It's not a multiplayer game. And of course, the reader notes here, clowning on him. 007 First Light's a single-player game. The main story takes about 15 hours to complete. Steam player counts for single-player games typically drop significantly within days of release after players finish the campaign. This is a guy who so desperately needs to own Apogee Entertainment, who so desperately needs to have his W, that he is willing to use completely stupid and fallacious data in order to support his point. Say it again for the idiots in the back, single-player games do not typically have long-running concurrent players. I have had this argument with quite a few people because we live in a world where when I flip open my phone, a week after some major release will come out, like let's say it's Clair Obscur. I didn't play Clair Obscur when it came out. I only recently played Clair Obscur. But I remember opening up my phone and seeing the headline, "Massive drop-off in Clair Obscur players as new indie game takes the spotlight." And I'm like, so you mean the RPG that people took a week to beat had a drop-off of players after a week? And another game that came out after that week had more players? Yeah, no fucking duh. This is the reason that Anthony Grimali is so mad about his time writing for CBR. Because these type of like stupid-ass clickbait articles have actively changed the way that we think about gaming conversations as a fucking society. And it's stupid. Said Wingcasters as we live in a society, bottom text. Would you believe I beat Control and then I stopped playing it? I know, shocking. I know, right? Man, it's so weird. I love Resident Evil 2. I promise you, if I look at the Steam numbers for Resident Evil 2, I'm going to see that there was a massive jump in numbers of players when it came out on Steam on April 1st, and then there's going to be a significant drop-off afterward. Alrighty, so there are currently 59 players on Steam playing Resident Evil 2. Oh man, bro, the game dropped off. Your game sucks, bro. Look at that drop off. Look at it. Oh my god, it's such a drop off that the game from fucking 1998 that was released on Steam 2 months ago had a drop off because it's a fucking single player game, you idiots. You will always see this trend every time. And this is Resident Evil 2, one of the grandfathers of everything action and everything horror in gaming. But no, the game sucks. Something DEI, I guess, because I'm able to see a little number that drops off. A thing that is expected in every game ever in the history of ever. But don't worry. You've definitely got a point, my guy. You've owned Apogee Software. You've owned them. You've stuck it to Rainbow Capitalism. You win, Yorch Torch Games. You're so cool. Look at you. You little dumb little guy. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.